So in this video, what I want to talk to you about is how to position yourself to create wealth. And wealth is something, financial wealth is something that cannot be created from every type of a position. For example, a person working at a Subway or McDonald's as a waiter, from that particular position, as long as they stay there, they cannot create wealth. They have to move up the ladder. They have to move and put themselves in a position to be able to create wealth. So I'm going to be talking about how to position yourself to create wealth. And this is something that I have been wondering about for more than 20 years, since the time where I was young, very little. And I would see these super successful, I would hear about these super successful, mega successful individuals that were in the public eye, and they would have significant amount of money, and I never understood what was the secret and how do you position yourself. All I kept hearing was the term business. You must get into business if you want to be successful, and if you want to create wealth, it cannot happen through employment, because employees get salary which is enough to pay for your survival. You need to get into business. But what kind of business? And how does one even do this? I mean, it was very confusing to me, and I didn't understand anything. So I hope with this video I can provide you complete clarity on that. I'm obviously in a very different position right now. I'm the founder of a healthcare investment company which is based in UAE, and I have managed to bring together some of the most high-profile individuals, negotiated several multi-million-dollar transactions, met with some of the largest banks in the UAE and in the world, including HSBC, Citibank, Credit Suisse, Barclays, negotiated with top law firms who have over $1 billion in revenue, and many other things, including negotiating a $100 million deal. So from not knowing anything, from not understanding anything, from not being able to comprehend anything, to putting myself in this position at the age of 29 without completing my college. And I didn't go to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton School of Finance, or any of that. Okay, I didn't finish school, and still I got in this position. And I put myself in this position in less than 8 months. So how did I do that? And what was the catalyst, and how did I cultivate this position where I could expose myself at a young age, being around high profile individuals and forming a company where I have 7 of very high profile individuals as my business partners. So how did I do it? I'm going to talk about this. So one thing to understand is that most amount of wealth, people who have done it, most of them have done it from a position of being a shareholder in a company. And I'll explain several levels of a company. So we are talking about positioning within a company, within the context of a company. We will also talk about positioning in terms of the industry, business model, and so on, and your region. But we'll talk at a very fundamental level is your company. We make money by positioning ourselves in a company as an employee or as a shareholder. Even if it's a sole proprietorship, it's kind of like a company which is in your name. So ultimately we have to be associated with some company to make money. And there are several positions within a company that you could take, and each of these positions have different levels of power and implications. So at the top, you've got the shareholders. The shareholders, I'm talking about big companies, how they are structured. At the top, there is shareholders. Then you've got board members, and shareholders appoint the board members. And these are separate. These are completely separate. The shareholders can themselves be on the board, but shareholder level and the board level are two different things. Then you've got the C-suite, chief executive, chief financial, chief operating officer, and then you've got the general manager and ground level employees below that. So most people, when they get into the corporate world, they get into the very bottom end, and they have to spend decades, and there is no guarantee whether they would climb this corporate ladder and ever get to be in a position of a shareholder. Almost everybody is familiar with the term CEO, and it's a commonly held belief that CEO is the most important person of the company. I believe that for a long time, but that's not the case. CEO is just an employee of the company, and CEO can receive some shares, and he could be a shareholder in the company, or you could have a shareholder who was appointed as a CEO. But ultimately, the most important people in any company is the shareholders, which are at the top, and the company is structured around benefiting the shareholders. It's not structured around benefiting employees. The whole company is structured around benefiting the shareholders. And for you to build wealth, the most advantageous position for you to be would be at the shareholder level, and ideally the major shareholder. And I'm the major shareholder of my company, and I am at a very advantageous position. So that's within the level of a company. I'm also the managing director, which puts me at the board level also. If you look at Elon Musk, he's probably one of the major shareholders in his companies, and he's executive chairman, and he was also CEO for a while. So you could be the major shareholder and you could have multiple roles, but ultimately he was the major shareholder and I'm the major shareholder. And what you want is a position where you can be a major shareholder, and that's at the company level. Depending on how successful the company is, the major shareholder makes most amount of money. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story. I just had finished, I was in Dubai. We had just finished the board meeting of my company, Vital Gates. And it was a successful board meeting, and I got a call. That was the first time where all the directors and partners were meeting for the first time. They had met me, but they had not met each other. So they did not really know each other. But when I brought them together, 7, 8 people, some of the most high profile individuals in the whole country, and they started to introduce themselves and talk about their backgrounds. I mean, all of them were just blown away as to the team that I had put together. It is one of the best teams possible in a region. And I was given this compliment by someone who had raised $1 billion. And he said, "You have put together the best possible team in the whole region. How did you do that?" And he did not know I was 29 years old. And when I did it, I was 27. So the meeting went over. I get a call from one of the shareholders, and he said, "Prithvi, can you come and have a meeting with me in downtown?" So I got into the cab and I went to downtown Dubai, and we sat down, and he said, "Do you want to have a drink?" And we had a drink. I wasn't drinking alcohol, but we had a drink. And then he asked me, "How old are you?" And I said, I'm 27. And he was 58. And he just kept looking at me, and he was like, "How did you do this? It's truly incredible. I'm envious of you that you are in this position. And I feel jealous because when I was at your age, I didn't know what I was doing. And you have put yourself in this position with these high profile individuals, and you're the major shareholder." So he could not believe that he's 58-year-old man. He has got 30 years of experience, and I am starting out. And he went the traditional route where he went into the corporate world, and he climbed the corporate ladder, and he actually became a partner in one of the top firms. And still he was looking at me with envy, because he lived most of his life as an employee. And he said to me, "Prithvi, I have one regret in my life." He said, "I've done several IPOs, initial public offerings. And I have done IPOs worth $1 billion. several IPOs worth $1 billion, and I've done 7 IPOs in my life. And one of my regret is that at those IPOs, my position, we're talking about position here, he said my position was that of a consultant. And I did not participate in those IPOs. I had no shares and I didn't benefit. So all the value that was created, I was just paid a commission, and I worked on $1 billion deal, which was the IPO, but I was the consultant. And before I die, I want to take the company public as a shareholder. That's really my dream. And it's the ultimate dream of any entrepreneur, is to take the company public. And most of the billionaires are created when a company is taken public. So that was a very big lesson. And he's the one who shared with me several levels of company. You've got the shareholder level, board level, C-suite level, and operations, ground level operations. And most people do not go above this. But all the money is made at the top. And the whole company is optimized to benefit the top. So it's going to be beneficial if you start at the top, not spend your whole life trying to get to the top. And bottom is not where you start. You start right at the top. So I started right at the top, and he said that my daughters have been to Boston University and they are in, Netflix and LinkedIn. But I tell them that all you need is just to do it. And look at Prithvi. He hasn't been to an Ivy League school. He didn't go to work for a firm. He just started, and he started his own company. So my point is that wealth will be created when you start your own company as a founder. I have met individuals who have come out of Ivy League schools, universities, Harvard, Oxford, and some of my friends, New York University and all of this. And they, after graduating from these universities, they're going to start at the bottom. And they're going to slog their whole life to try to get a little bit taste of a C-suite position. And very few people out of them are going to make it. And that's the tragedy. And that's one of the reasons why I say that you don't need a degree, is because to be a founder, to be an entrepreneur, you don't need a degree. You just need information, you need education, it's important, but not necessarily a degree from one of those Ivy League schools. It helps if you have it, but if you get the degree and start at the bottom, it's not very advantageous. So he was at the end of the cycle. He did everything by the book. He went into a corporate firm, he worked hard, he went up the top, and ultimately he found in my company, where I was the major shareholder and he was one of the partners, and he just looked at me and he said, I should have done what you're doing. I wasted my time working for the top accounting firm in the world. He said, I wasted my time. I should have done what you're doing. So that was pretty heavy, because I was looking up to him, but he was looking up to me. And that was very strange for me as I was young to comprehend someone that old, looking up to me. And so that's my point, is that you want to be a founder of the company and you want to be the major shareholder of the company. So that should be your starting position. It's not something that you have to arrive after 20 years. You could start there and build it. Now, this position tends to be extremely risky, and it involves a lot of risk. This is the person who takes most amount of risk. This is the person who's exposed to all kinds of implications, and that's a high pressure role, but it has got the biggest reward. So if you have to play the game, and in each position, if it's going to get tough, why not choose the top position? And even within M&A, mergers and acquisitions is what I'm into and what I teach. You could play that game from several positions. You could play the game as an employee, you could play it at the C-suite level, you could play it at the board level, or you could play it at the shareholder level. And very few people, you might have heard about investment bankers, right? The glorified investment bankers. Investment bankers are just employees of the company. They have a salary, they have a bonus, and maybe they have a commission on the deal. They're not shareholders of the deal. So if somebody tells you they've worked on $1 billion deal, ask them what was their position. And based on their position on the deal, you could estimate what they would have made on that transaction. But the real guys are the ones buying the company, being the shareholder in the deal. And that is what you want to be. Not a consultant, you want to be not an employee, you want to be the shareholder.